Welcome to Brands Hatch for the 2021 Fanatec GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. The first free practice session about to start. In fact, the cars, if you're a bronze or silver rated driver, you've already just had a quick half hour around the Grand Prix loop. But track conditions, John Watson, look perfect. We may see the sun later today, but we've got 28 cars coming out to play, and always here it's going to be super tight. You're dealing in tenths of a second. They make a huge difference.
Well, welcome to the Garden of England, albeit the sun's not shining, but we hope it's going to come out a little bit later. Here at Brands Hatch, there's the temperature 16.4 on track and 15.1, so it's comfortable but not exactly stellar. Nevertheless, always a pleasure to come back to Brands Hatch, one of the greatest and most enjoyable old school but with a touch to modernity racetracks anywhere in the world. And it is a proper racetrack. It's not flat, it doesn't have millions of miles of runoff. It tests the driver's skill, and we're going to keep emphasizing that requirement all the way through the weekend.
Precision all the way. Great to see the fans, as soon as the gates were open this morning, started to come in and getting their favoured vantage points around this circuit. And certainly if you're a fan of photography, there are many angles you can get to make the cars look brilliant. And whole array of cars looking down on the pit lane. You can see, unfortunately, one car is not in the pit lane. This one had a little off out at Westfield in the first practice session. It was Benjamin Jota. He was second fastest at the time in the number 30 Audi up at Westfield. And the car, well, that's a really unusual one. At Westfield, you have a moment going off. You normally have it further around the corner, but that appeared to be straight on.
Yeah, that would indicate possibly something happened beyond the control of Benjamin Jota, because it looked as if he didn't even attempt to take Westfield Bend, just went straight across through the gravel bed and then nosed it into the tire wall, and of course then it got that rather unusual angle. The car relatively lightly damaged from what we can see as it's being returned to the pits, but it just illustrates that the margins for whether it's a forced or an unforced error are small. You just have got to be aware that this is a racetrack that you have to have everything perfect.
And that just takes us back to your earlier comments about it being an old school race circuit without a lot of runoff. In fact, that corner was perhaps has the biggest runoff of anywhere, unless you just go straight on at Surtees and you've got the grass to go across. So, fantastic grid of cars ready to go out on the circuit. And track time, as always, every circuit it's important. But here, when you're going to be dealing in just tenths of a second, which could be the difference of several rows on this grid, it's absolutely critical you have a good practice session.
Well, we've seen in the past just how close a field here at Brands is going to be. It's not uncommon to see the top 20 cars covered by less than a second. Listen, these are physically large cars. They're not quite the size of them, the Audi or the Mercedes we here have on image that you'll go and buy in your local Mercedes or Audi dealer. They are race cars, and they get wider, and the aero effect becomes more important. So it is a narrow, the racetrack itself isn't narrow, but the margins to either side make it look narrower. Again, it comes back to respect the circuit. You're here at an old school circuit. You cannot take the liberties you can take with more contemporary circuits where you've got oceans or miles or whatever description you care to give to the amount of runoff that is now on those more modern circuits. All the better here for a circuit where it taxes the driver to ensure that they are the better at handling these conditions.
Right, of course, we have battles within the overall battle. Just looking at the Valentin Pierberg Dominic Baumann Mercedes, that's leading the Pro-Am class. So we've got Pro-Am, we've got the Silver Cup class for drivers where you've got two drivers silver ranked, and of course the overall championship. And at the moment, Dries van Tor and Charles Weert sitting very well clear at the top, 28.5 points. They've got two races at this meeting and two at the final round. But so far, after 3 rounds, they have 6 wins to their name. And you know what? We asked for something? Well, don't even ask it, and Gemma is all over it. She is down in the pit lane with the man we're talking about, with Dries van Tor. So just catching up with Dries, but good to see the Lamborghini in the mix, and car 77, that was going very well this morning, SRO Motorsport. But we are going down to hear the words of Dries van Tor, because Gemma has found him in the pit lane, and he's very kindly agreed to talk to us.
Dries, back in the UK, first time in 2 years, and a great circuit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lovely place here. It's a very old school track, which we all like, I think, as a racing driver, just to be close to the walls. Well, to the barriers, and if you make a small mistake, your weekend can be badly damaged, let's say. So it's a cool track.
And of course, coming into this weekend, you guys are leading the championship. You've got quite a lead in terms of points, and you could potentially sew things up early.
Yeah, well, we're not really thinking of too much about that. We're just trying to do our own thing and focus on our weekend and try to do the maximum as possible. But yeah, like you said, mathematically it's possible. So we just have to make 2 good races. But like I said, we just have to focus on our own thing and don't really look at the others. Then someday we will see how it is.
And Charles is in the car for this first part of free practice.
Yeah, exactly.
You two had some time on the golf course to relax as well?
Well, I was in the mall, I was there as well. So it was not like we had a weekend where we didn't see each other, unfortunately. But no, we're always doing some stuff at home as well, making sure that we enjoy our time. And so it's not like we didn't see each other for a few weeks.
Thank you very much. Have a good weekend, Dries.
Thank you.
So very measured from Dries van Tor there. He knows that a title is almost within his grasp. The fact the number 30 Rofco car, well, as you can see, John, not much damage at the front at all after hitting the barriers. But really difficult. Here we are, John. Let's take a look at the replay.
I mean, it's very strange. We're just catching the point of where he's actually left the circuit on the point where you turn right to take Westfield Corner. Now, superficially, it doesn't look as if there's too much damage. But it's only when you take the bodywork off and have a look around, just check on radiator mounts, check on radiators themselves, check your steering, check the suspension, because while the impact was absorbed by that tyre wall and the car sort of rode up it, and that would have taken away a little bit of the energy, nevertheless, the WRT team will have to go through that car very closely indeed. I suspect it won't get out in the second part of this initial practice session. The only thing in their favour is this session has been delayed until 10 to 10. It should have started at 9:30, but because the tyre bales out at Westfield need to be securely and appropriately relocated, because it's absolutely vital that those issues are 100% correct before the field is allowed to return to the circuit.
So, slight delay. Obviously, just that is on screen. You can see the images of the tyre wall, and they're just obviously trying to make sure that it's all ready to go. But again, it was still such a strange place to go off, because the track drops away down to the right at Westfield, and it's a long old gravel. But there is the track in the background of the shot, going up toward into the Dingledale, then up to Sheen Curve. But that run along the Derek Minter Straight from Hawthorns, it's not something you think about too much.
To me, he never even attempted to take the corner. Now, why that might be, maybe there was an issue with the brakes. These are cars going at ABS brakes on. Maybe there was an electronic issue, maybe because the throttle is a fly-by-wire throttle. Maybe that was an issue. We didn't see what occurred. Unfortunately, the cameraman just panned around at the moment when the car was in gravel. So those are issues, again, the team will want to analyse. They'll download all the information from the car, and they'll be able to see precisely. Now, there is always, Bruce, the thing you hate to say most of all. Was it human error? Did Benjamin Jota make a mistake?
Well, only he knows the answer to that. Maybe now the team chief as well. But it's to guess. But so slight delay down in the pit lane. But we've just seen the incident involving Benjamin Jota, and let's go down and hear from the horse's mouth.
Benjamin, we've just seen on the TV screen a clip of what happened, but can you talk us through it from your perspective?
Yeah, I was going for a quick lap. Our pace was really good, so I was just trying to improve the lap a bit, and then I just lost it on the entry into, I think it was turn 6, and then the car just went straight. So yeah, it was quite a stupid mistake from me to make so early on, but other than that, I think our pace is really good. With P2 at the moment, so hopefully we can get the car repaired quickly. I don't think it's damaged too much, and get ready for the next practice.
Do you know what the damage is?
There's a little bit of damage to the front. I hit the tyre barrier a bit in the front of the car, but I don't think it's too much. It won't take too long, I hope. So yeah, we'll see.
Good job, thank you.
Thank you.
Bruce, isn't it always interesting when a driver gives a description of an incident, it's always downplayed. Oh, it's not too much, not too bad. When he gets the bill for that, he might revise his thoughts about what damage was done. But again, he puts his hand up and says, like, it was my mistake. I don't know whether maybe he ran either one or two wheels off the curb, And that is maybe part of the reason why he would have gone off. So let's have a little look at this 9-corner of Brands Hatch. 2.433 miles because we're in the UK, and for those that are non-imperial measure, it's 3.916 kilometres. 9 corners. First intermediate comes just after Graham Hill Bend. Second comes just on the entry into Stirling's. 9 corners, lap record, of course, that doesn't apply to these particular cars. That was set away back, probably in the 80s, I would imagine, sometime. But 3.916 kilometres, and that's to bow to our former European colleagues.
Well, we try to cater for all parties, but however you look at Brands Hatch, however you analyse it, it's a circuit on which there's almost nowhere to relax. Maybe on the blast up towards Westford, it's always twisting, it's always turning. What makes it interesting to me is the gradient change.
Yes, I mean, we've become accustomed to having racetracks that fundamentally, apart from somewhere like Monte Carlo, which is obviously a street track through the Principality, but the majority of racetracks, some of them have got gradual, and TV cameras tend to flatten that out anyway. So a circuit that might look flat as a pancake might have a very subtle gradual curve. But here at Brands Hatch, the jump, or not the jump, I was going to say a jump, it's like jumping off a ski jump competition. It drops away so dramatically. And then the climb up into Druids, and then the drop down from Druids to Graham Hill Bend. Then the long, what they call, I suppose you might call it straight, but it's the Cooper Straight after John Cooper. Of course, another man who was infamous and famous and winning world championships. Then you come into one of the best corners in the circuit, in my view. That's Surtees, or as it was known as, South Bank Corner. One of the places I used to use as overtaking.
So always tight, always twisty, and again, you talk about the track dropping away. In fact, let's have a look at a bit of track footage. This is the Chris Frogger, Giorgio Roda, Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari. John, talk us through.
You don't see the apex for paddock. You have to anticipate it. You make your apex, clip the curb, don't run wide. You'll get pinged for track limit abuses at Paddock Hill Bend exit. Up the hill into Druids. That's an unusual entry into the corner, somewhat wider, I might say. I'll take note of that next time I'm at Brands. I'll try it. Down the hill, turn left into Graham Hill Bend. Again, watch on the outside of Graham Hill Bend. You get pinged for track limits. Now along the Cooper Straight. It bends into Surtees, or as I remember it, South Bank, my favourite corner here at Brands Hatch. Use a little bit of curb on the exit, but don't be too greedy. Then you cut back as you go then into what's called Pilgrim's Drop. Down to the bottom of the drop, then up Hawthorns Hill into Hawthorns Bend. Fantastic corner. Run out to the very edge. Now this is where Benjamin Jota got it wrong. Did he run the curb, or did he run too far to the left to go straight on into Westfield? That used to be very bumpy. Now it looks a much smoother surface. Down the hill into Dingledale. Dingledale corner, well actually it's now called Sheen Curve. Another great corner, then a short sprint up to Stirling's. This is the corner that catches, I would say, majority of drivers out. The curb on that right hand side, don't use it, or if you use it, don't abuse it. Then the short run down into Clearways, and then the second part of Clearways is called Clark Curve in honour of the great Scottish two-time world champion Jim Clark. And before you know it, you've completed a 2.4 or 3.9 kilometre lap of Brands Hatch. 9 corners, each one of them is a major challenge, but I tell you what, the level of self-satisfaction way up there.
Up and down, round and round is a very, very simple comment about the circuit. But so now a car that's always going well in the championship, car 88 from ASP. Let's hear from Timo Boguslavski.
Timo, I just watched you looking at the screens, looking through the circuit map and the onboard lap that was just showing on the TV screens. What a benefit does that give you, looking through that with your teammates here?
Yeah, we just discussed a bit about the track, so because the track is really slippery now at the moment, and yeah, it's old school track, so you need to be really careful because you can crash easily here, as I was seeing like 20 minutes ago. So yeah, that's it.
You'll be jumping in the car, will you, once the session restarts?
Yeah, because we just put the new tires and somebody is crashed, so yeah, now I have just fresh tires, but it's okay, yeah. And after that, will go after me. So.
And of course, coming into this weekend, you guys are really battling it out. The championship is still within reach.
I mean, yeah, I think we can, because Audi was watching a bit better about than us and the BOP, so but my engineer told me VOP now is changed a bit, so let's see what we can do here. Yeah.
Have a great weekend. Thanks, Timo.
Thank you.
So that was Timo Bogoslawski with Gemma Scott, partnered, of course, with Raffaele Marcello. So more barrier repairs, or continuing barrier repairs, out at Westfield. But again, the tyres did what they needed to do. And as you pointed out, it was helped when Benjamin Goethe's car rode up over them, because that reduced the bounce back from the tyres, but clearly went in hard enough still to bend the barriers. That's
well,
the point.
I may have actually split the barrier at the mounting point, so there's a lot of work going on to reconstruct the metal barrier behind the tyre bales. And of course, then there's a big piece of rubber webbing which goes in front of the tyres, which keeps the tyres together. So if a car does impact the tyre wall, that bit of webbing keeps the tyres more or less intact, and of course helps again with the absorption of the impact. I mean, thinking about Benjamin Goethes, had a little accident. It wasn't very much, not much damage to the car. He might get a bill from Jonathan Palmer, Motorsport Vision, who own Brands Hatch, for unknown extra whatever.
Yeah, across the grass, across the gravel, because it's got to be perfect.
Don't mention the grass.
Don't mention the grass. I didn't.
The grass
I did
here
once and I got away with it.
Bruce, the grass here this weekend is blade perfect.
I saw you admiring it
a
this
blade
morning.
of grass, that is.
Yes, absolutely so. Now, just back, if I will, to Timo Bogoslawski. There's his car, the 88 Mercedes. Of course, he was second in the Sprint Cup last year, determined to go better this year, but he's got a big points deficit to Weerts and Vantor, sharing, of course, Timo as ever with Raffaele Marcello, so he's got a real fighter in his corner, but it's a big ask for them this weekend.
It'll be a challenge, I think, especially at Brands, because my feeling is that Audi are very well placed, and particularly the 32 car of Charles Weerts and Dries van Thor. That's a car I would anticipate will qualify well and will race well. But of course, things can happen. You can have an issue, or you can have a mistake and whatever. And if you don't have what I would call your natural green position, which for the 32 Audi is always at the front, then it's going to be very difficult. And that's where someone like the 88 Mercedes, Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marcello will be hoping that something befalls the 32 Audi that gives them that step forward and being able to get maybe maximum or close to maximum points.
Still waiting for the track to go green, but let's go down. We've had some onboard footage from the Ferrari, Sky Tempesta Racing, and Gemma has caught up with the driver, Chris Froggatt.
Chris, this is a home circuit for you, but one that you don't know that well, I believe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's not like Silverstone or a few of the other UK tracks that I know and have tested on a fair bit, but this is all really new for me. I've driven a little bit the Indy circuit before, but the longer layout, I mean, isn't used very much, so it's really nice to be able to drive it, but it's also a lot of learning and a really condensed program.
I think from a viewer's point of view, a lot of the fans won't realise how much undulation there is here.
Oh yeah, it's huge. I mean, even I had no idea. When you come here, you can't imagine how bumpy the track is, how much undulation. It's a real old school circuit, so it's a lot of fun to drive.
And of course, this weekend, hoping for a home podium?
Oh well, I mean, that would be the dream. Yeah, absolutely.
Do you think it's within sights?
Let's see. It's going to be difficult for both of us. It's the first time here, and we have to learn everything pretty quickly. And I think, I mean, it's possible, but also the racing is going to be very difficult here. Qualifying is going to be very important, and that's going to count on us being able to put a good lap together this afternoon. So let's see.
Have a good one. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
So it's interesting, John, just the fact that here's a British driver who literally hasn't raced at one of the leading circuits in his own country. But again, it depends what championships you do on the way up. But he very quickly went into Ferrari racing, and their racing wasn't here at Brands Hatch.
I mean, I was surprised to hear that comment, because Brands is sort of the quintessential British national level racetrack. I mean, it's in the southeast of England. There's racing here virtually every weekend. But of course, if you're not racing in the particular categories that are being run, then you escape the opportunity. But it's sort of part of the university of becoming a racing driver, that you master either the Indy circuit, which is the short, but just over a mile and a little bit, or the 2.4 International Grand Prix circuit. So it was a shock, and well, not a shock, but I was surprised to hear Chris's comments. Maybe when I made that observation of the line he was taking round Druids, maybe he was looking for the corner and not realising actually he'd gone a little bit too deep into it. Normally people hug the curb all the way around. That very, very wide entry then cutting back is not a normal racing line here at Brands Hatch. As we watch all the Yes, now looking at 9:55 before this work is complete. So everybody lined up in the paddock on the pit lane, waiting for the track to go green. It'll be a 25-minute delay. So, of course, that's going to knock back other of the events. A very busy weekend here, Bruce.
An incredibly busy weekend, and packed obviously with all the Fanatec GT World Challenge action, but the support races are phenomenal. I mean, enormous grids of historic racing cars, and from cars from 60 years ago, minis and so on. So it's a really good, diverse support package. So everything getting knocked back, but great to have them on the billing here. But the people who'll be most frustrated by this delay are the 4 crews that haven't gone out yet, because the first session we had starting at 9 o'clock this morning was for the bronze and silver rank drivers. But if you've got a solid gold crew, then you have to wait your time. So looking again at the AKA ASP Mercedes number 88, that's Timo Bogoslawski, and of course his teammate Raffaele Marcello. 3 of the Mercedes AMGs run by AKA ASP, that's Jerome Policon's team. Konstantin Terashenko, Jim Pla in 87, Bogoslawski, Raffaele Marcello in 88, and the third car, Petru Umberescu, driver from Romania, sharing with Jules Gounon. You might have seen Jules in the shot before in his pink BWT overalls. He's now on board waiting to get going, and for a lot of the drivers, actually the car becomes a warm place to be. But of course, MSVR, who run the circuit, have got to be absolutely sure that the barriers are erected or repaired to their satisfaction. So deep in the gravel trap, the tractor just waiting to put the last units in place, and I'm not entirely sure we will be going at 9:55, but let's cross our fingers and hope. But one thing that is improving, John, is the weather. A little bit of sun. It's not quite here yet, but it's brightening up at Brands Hatch.
Well, we're coming to the sort of conclusion of what would have been a British summer, and there's a cloud base over the circuit, but it's high, it's not threatening rain. There's a high pressure area all over the UK right now, so I would hope that this is going to burn off and we're going to have another classic blue sky and gorgeous day at Brands Hatch. And of course, I heard Dries van Thor mentioning track conditions. I think it might have been Dries, maybe somebody else, that the circuit is still what we would call very green, but particularly the international, the Grand Prix circuit, which is only used on a few occasions during the year. So that needs to get loads and loads of rubber down. And those 4 car driver pairings that didn't get out in the bronze and silver test will want to get out within the 30 minutes of this session, which is it's a 1-hour session, but divided into 2 groups.
Well, needing to line everything up, and one crew that really needs to find some form again is Emil Frey Racing. They had a really poor run last time out at Misano. But let's catch up down with Albert Costa, with Gemma.
Albert, I can see you just getting ready to get in the car. We'll just grab you quickly. Yes, exactly. But the team have had a lot of work to do between Spa and now.
Yeah. I'm proud of them. I wanted to thank all of them from Emil Frey Lamborghini, because as you know, it was only not 1 car, it was 2 cars that they have to rebuild from zero, and they did an amazing job. I'm so proud of them. And yeah, now finally back in the school now after summer break. I'm really looking forward. And yeah, nice track. Lamborghini used to do good in this track, so I'm really looking forward to do the first laps today.
I think you've got more time than you realise. I think the start's been pushed back to 10:10 once again. So
yeah, it's the 3rd time actually that I'm going into the car. So I hope finally I'm going to drive in real life, not like just going in, waiting 7 minutes and going. So 15 more minutes?
Yes.
No.
15 more minutes indeed.
No. Okay, now I say nothing.
Is this a circuit you enjoy though?
Wait, just give me 1 second. I cannot listen.
There you go.
Okay.
You know
Did you
the
record
circuit well?
this, no?
You pop that over for your face with a mask. There we go.
Sorry, say again with the AirPods. I couldn't see.
Do you know the Brands circuit very well?
Not really very well, because it's my 2nd time. It was my first time in 2018 with the Lexus. But yeah, I'm looking forward. You know, it's a nice track. Sorry.
The team are mocking him from behind here.
Yeah, because I was with the finger like this. Yeah, I'm looking forward. It's a nice track. It's a nice ambient. Also, there is a lot of fans around here, so it's always cool to race here. The fans are big fans here because they really love motorsport, and this is things that you really like.
There's a great atmosphere in the Emil Frey team as well. We can see Ricardo just behind you. Why don't we go pop and have a quick chat with him? Thanks, Albert. Let's just pop over here. Ricardo, have you got a mask you can pop on, and then we can have a quick chat with you? Thank you very much. And of course, coming into this weekend, the silver class for you this year has been fantastic.
Yeah, looks quite good. I mean, it's not the best for us that we are a bit, we have a gap with the points, but yeah, for sure, it's quite good, and let's see where we can finish.
And as Albert said, the team have got a great atmosphere here, very, very hard working to get the cars all running after the difficulties in Spa.
Well, the mechanics are our heroes, especially, I mean, after this race, of course, I think they were working full, non-stop, I mean, all the time, and for sure the atmosphere is really good, and it's nice that we have this team spirit.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be back in the UK racing as well. What do you make to Brands Hatch? Do you like the circuit here?
I still didn't drive. Still red flag, no laps, so I don't know. Let's see.
Okay. Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, and we'll catch up with you again throughout the weekend.
Thank you.
Alex Fontana there leading the Silver Cup class, but again, it's still another driver who doesn't know the circuit. You sort of automatically assume all these drivers would have had some form of running on this, even within GT World Challenge, but some of them have just come within the last 2 years. We haven't been here for the last couple of years, and that's the gap they've slotted into. Right, track temperature starting to creep up. It was a bit cooler this morning. Humidity still quite high, but I think that's going to burn off because it's certainly getting brighter. As we look out from the tinted windows of our commentary box, it's brighter than we realise. Yeah,
so I mean, the temperatures come up, mainly the track temperature. But just going back to what Albert Costa and then Ricardo Fellow were saying, I can't praise highly enough the work done by Emil Frey Racing. They had 2 cars. One was literally nothing, and the other was heavily damaged. And for the team to turn around and produce 3 race cars, all looking immaculate, and all going to be undoubtedly very competitive in their respective categories, is a testament to the work that Emil Frey Racing, and also for Lamborghini, who had to supply all the parts. I mean, there were 2 destroyed chassis, and that was a complete rebuild. I mean, I'm not going to tell you the images that were available from that incident at the top of radio at the Spa 24 Hours. It was one of the biggest and just most frightening incidents we've ever had at the top of radio. And of course, it's a notorious part of that racetrack. But here at Brands Hatch, we've got a different day and a different opportunity. It's 2 one-hour sprint races, different mindset, certainly obviously to Spa 24, but let's say even to an endurance event. So it's all about getting out and getting a clean, clear lap on a fresh set of rubber, because if you manage to get into the front 2 or 3 rows of the grid, you can more or less consolidate that position. Whereas if you're not, and say you're running in the pro category, but you're further down the field, you will not have much opportunity to score big points.
So that'll be weighing heavily on all of them, because the frustration, you just want to get tucked in and get on with being out on the circuit. But for now, we've still got plenty of time until the cars go out there. But let's go down. SPS Automotive Performance going really well in Pro-Am. Let's hear from Dominic Baumann.
Dominic, great for us all to be back in the UK, particularly for us Brits, but is it a circuit you are very familiar with here?
Yeah, I was here in 2016 and 17, which was my first year in 2016, and I really enjoyed the track from the first lap. It's a bit challenging for the driver, but it's a lot of fun here.
And of course, it's a very traditional track, is what we're hearing from a lot of the drivers.
Yeah, it's more like the American tracks, up and down, no gravel, like just grass on the side, no runoffs. I didn't drive today yet, so it was just Wally's time. But I hope we can go out soon, and I really try to see what it is back 4 or 5 years ago when I was here, because every year or all 5 years is a big time. But last time I was here, I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
How well does the Mercedes perform here?
I hope good. So we are not sure yet, but for us it's important to finish every race, and it's so tight in Pro-Am, same as in Pro and every class we have. But I think we can finish strong here, yes.
It's interesting how you say how tight it is, because there are championships that exist outside of GT World Challenge where things are very much sewn up early on. But here everything is very, very close.
Yeah, because our bronze drivers, they're all doing the same lap times, and if they have a good day, they can be 3-4 tenths faster. This could be an advantage for us, but it's really tight, and it's really a nice championship. It's just 4 cars here, now 5. But it's every race they are together and have great fights.
Always unpredictable. Have a great weekend, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that was Dominic Baumann running very well, sharing the lead with Valentin Pierberg, his teammate in the Pro-Am Cup element of the championship. So still waiting for the track to open up as we look at Ben Barnicut's Jota McLaren, the only McLaren in the field, sharing with Ollie Wilkinson. Again, the long wait, but let's take a look at the championship points as they stand. Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts, look at that, 75 points, 46 points, well, sorry, 28.5 points clear of Raffaele Marcello and Timo Bogoslawski. So, John, that is a big, big lead. For a lot of the others, it's about just adjusting their position to see almost who will become second in the Sprint Cup this year. We have 5 rounds. This is round number 4, but with 3 wins from the first 6 races across those 3 rounds. Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts sitting very pretty at the top of the table. Yeah,
I mean, it's not quite a done deal, but it's not very far away from it. And the fact that Raffaele Marcello and Riccardo Feller, those 2 cars are split by 3 points in second and third places respectively. Their focus is really going to be on who will finish second and who will finish third. It's only unless something unexpected befalls the 32 Audi that you could imagine that either the Mercedes or the Lamborghini are going to have a chance to snatch that sprint overall championship.
Yeah, so it's about keeping their noses clean, but knowing Dries van Toor and Charles Weerts as we do, they're going to be doing their utmost to see if they can start from the very, very front of the grid. Car 88, this is the Mercedes shared by Timo Bogoslawski and Raffaele Marcello. It looks great in the pit lane, but it looks an awful lot better when it's out on the track. And we did catch some onboard footage from the session. John, let's ride with them.
Well, 88 ended up 6th overall in that bronze and silver test, but let's look at more. Timo Bogoslawski makes his way into Paddock Hill Bend and misses the apex by a fair margin, but, well, you know, early in the session. Now what's up into Druids? Again, slightly different line, making it sort of a very, very late apex down the hill, then on the brakes, careful here into Graham Hill Bend. It's the exit you're going to be, there you go. And that might have been pinged or it might not have been, but it would have been close to it. Then up the Cooper Straight and into Surtees. Working quite hard. Again, the track is still on the green side, so the level of grip and of course tire temperature, this is maybe half an hour, 40 minutes ago now, still building as you continue through your sequence of lap. Lovely view. That's a good line into Hawthorne's got a good entry. Straighten the car up on the exit, then stay on the left-hand side before you cut down into Westfield. Watch the curve on the outside of Westfield, then downhill, the compression in Dingledale, then up into Sheen Curve. Get the nose in. It's one of those apexes you have to anticipate. Then a short squirt up to Stirling's. Get the nose in. Watch the curve on the outside. Don't run it too aggressively, because the bite will be painful. Then that short sprint down into the first part of what is a 2-part corner, Clearways. Lovely corner. If you get it right, the car just floats up to the exit, then comes back for the second part Clark curve, and then another lap is completed. I mean, the best lap that car achieved this morning, 125.6. Wasn't on this lap, was a bit later in the session.
Yeah, worth pointing out, though, it might have been 6th fastest, but just to show how close the times are, that was just 0.155 of a second down on the ultimate pace, and the top 2 separated by 5 1/1000ths. But let's head down to hear the words of wisdom from the lead driver of car number 90, Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes, and the driver, the inimitable Ezekiel Perez-Companc.
Ezekiel, welcome to the UK, a country that you love for the weather.
Yes, I love it.
Here?
Circuit is nice. I think it's one of the best to drive, especially to drive in free practice and stuff. Then for the race, it's quite tricky because it's difficult to overtake. But yeah, we have the guys that really practice the pit stops, so I'm really confident with that. And yeah, you always enjoy here. I've been three times here before, so it's nice to be back.
Absolutely. I mean, we've seen already that the circuit is challenging.
Yeah, it's super challenging. The first time with the Mercedes, so it's nice. It's like a roller coaster. So yeah, I'll be going to Alton Towers later after the race, but I think I'm already at the roller coaster. You know, it's super fun, and yeah, really enjoying it.
Are you making this a bit of a holiday?
Maybe yes. You know, it's been really hot in Barcelona. It's like 40-45 degrees, and here it's super nice. You know, it's chilly, and yeah, food is nice, people are nice. So yeah, really enjoying it.
Does it make it easier? The temperature obviously being lower when you're in the car, it's less tiring.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. Well, Spa as well was in the night and stuff was quite cold as well, so it was quite nice. But yeah, it's always nice. I think in Barcelona, Valencia, we're going to struggle a lot with the temperatures, but yeah, here it's super, super nice.
Absolutely, and of course the fight is on still for championships across all.
Yeah, I think it's good for us. You know, the sprint, we haven't been scoring too many points. I think we've been struggling a lot on qualifyings, and I think quali here is key. But I think for this weekend, the package is super strong. Same as Spa, you know, we've been bringing a lot of upgrades to the team, and I think, yeah, it's we're feeling it, and yeah, I think we can carry the good streak from Spa to here. So yeah, let's see.
Okay, one more quick question. Are you going to tell us why you're called Mad Panda yet?
Not yet. We were supposed to win the whole championship and stuff, but I think sprint is going to be tough. Maybe endurance now after winning Spa, we can do it. But yeah, the team name remains a secret.
The Panda watch is on behind you.
Yeah. Let's see.
Thanks, Ezekiel.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the weekend.
You too.
Now then, Watty, do you think he will finally unveil the story behind the team name? Now, they're going to have to be very, very quick if these repairs are going to be completed in time for the 10:10 restart. We can't see exactly what's happening, but the fact they're still using shovels behind the, or spades, in fact, behind the tyre wall, not a good sign. So I think we might have a delay on the delay on the delay, unfortunately, as all the cars, 28 of them, are lining up, waiting to get out on the circuit. Just not happening at the moment.
And it looked an innocuous incident. I mean, that's what Benjamin Jota said. Oh, there was nothing really, the car rode up. But actually what it did do is the Armco barrier, the metal barriers, but more crucially the support for the barriers was clearly damaged beyond just a quick fix. And of course it is imperative that these fixes are carried out to the level of qualification that the circuit is certified for, and therefore the guys out working on it, they've got to do it appropriately, and it's taking longer than the initial 10-15 minutes delay that was. I don't know if we've got a time to still saying no restart before 10:10. Well, that's in about 3 or 4 minutes. I suggest that might be put back a little bit further, because those people have got to get away from that part of the racetrack, and all their support vehicles. There's a significantly large digger out there in the, I don't mean our digger in the pit lane, but the digger in the gravel trap. So it might be a further 5 or 10 minutes.
So again, at this point, John, it seems a bit simplistic to say this, but it is about mind management for a lot of the drivers. A lot of them are, still quite young in their years, and just the pressure getting to them while they're sitting there, and just some can focus cleanly, others will be a bit jumbled as they sit there.
Mind management's become a bit of a sort of flavour of the month comment, really, isn't it? It's something that I know Sir Jackie Stewart was very keen to promote with his drivers and his team. And the thing about, he called it mind management. I don't know whether it's gravitated down yet to GT racing. I think it's a different threshold and a different level of competition. But I'll go with it anyway. I'll go with it.
We can talk about it later. But just focus. But actually, at this point, just the ability to relax is probably the most important thing. Not get too het up. But they know once they're on the circuit, it's going to be super, super busy. 28 cars around the 2.4 miles. And track space is always quite something, as you're trying to just find those tenths of a second. And just worth reiterating, when the cars went out this morning for the bronze and silver session, the top 12 were covered by a second. So it's really, really tight. And it's going to get tighter still. With every session, it's going to get tighter and tighter and tighter.
And there's a car which will be right in the middle of that tight session, and that's the 38 Jota McLaren, a car that's been, I think, one of the impressive operations. It's a single car operation, so they don't have the benefit of having a multiple car lineup where they can overlap, information from each of the 3 or 4 cars in the team. So they're working as a solo entry, and while it doesn't handicap you, it's always helpful to have a broader spectrum of information coming through. But Ben Barnicoat and Oliver Wilkinson, both British drivers, I'm assuming they've both raced here in their junior Formula days, so they will know Brands Hatch. They may not be familiar with the Grand Prix circuit as much as the Indy circuit, but nevertheless, Ben Barnicoat will have grown up and raced here, no doubt.
Yeah, and for Jota, they really are the local team. In fact, I drove almost past their unit place last night in France, just south of Tunbridge Wells, so about 25 miles from here. So these things make a bit of a difference to the team, just the fact that they can sleep in their own beds and come in. It just changes the format, particularly this year where, like last year, travel is so difficult. It comes with many hurdles to be cleared.
Well, I think one of the big advantages of coming to Brands Hatch, as we did this morning, Bruce, is go to there's a cafeteria just at the foot of the press building, and you have your Kent sausage baguette with lashings of HP sauce and a hot coffee.
We did comment it worked rather well.
Oh, built me up for the day.
Well, I didn't spot too many drivers having those. Maybe they were having a little salad in the back of their garage, but they're missing a real trick. So pit lane still full of cars waiting to be disgorged onto the circuit. Now, car 38, Ollie Wilkinson. Jota, we've just seen the car. We've talked about Ben Barnicott. Let's hear the words of the other driver, Ollie Wilkinson.
Ollie, obviously, Brands Hatch is a home circuit, not only for yourself and Ben, but for the team and, of course, for McLaren as well. It's a pretty big weekend for you guys.
Yeah, it's lovely to be here for us, home race down at Brands Hatch. It'd be nice to get up on the podium, I think, at some point this weekend. It'll be a home race for us, McLaren and Jota. I think there'll be a lot of people here watching and supporting us, so to get us up somewhere on that podium would be lovely.
Absolutely. I mean, even a Kent-based team, it really is home. For you, though, it's a circuit that you haven't driven loads, I believe.
No, not masses. Driven here twice in British GT in the past, so I have raced here a little bit. But apart from that, I've never been here before, because with the noise restrictions, how they are and things, it's so difficult to come testing here. But really, the only chance you ever get to drive the circuit is on a race weekend, so it's tricky.
From a driver's point of view, it's a circuit that we've spoken to some of the drivers, a lot of undulation, but that feeling through the body as you're going into Paddock Hill Bend is quite something.
Yeah, it's amazing. For me, I almost think it's a little bit like a UK version of the Noise Cliff that they have over in Germany.
It's quite something. This weekend, then, looking ahead, once we get going in free practice now, you're looking and feeling confident?
I think so, yeah. Unfortunately, we haven't actually made it out on track yet, because with us both being gold drivers, we missed the first half an hour of the free practice session, and then with the red flag coming when it did, we haven't actually managed to get any laps in yet. So we'll see how we get on in a minute when we get back out.
Time will tell, but
yes.
Have a great weekend. Thanks, Ollie.
Thank you very much.
That's interesting. Ollie Wilkinson down there talking to Gemma. I presumed that he would have raced here when he started his racing career in Ginettas, but clearly not. And when we said local team, obviously he's not a local driver. He's from Leeds. He's come down a long way, and hopefully he's going to bring family and friends to join the crowd here. Now we're just hearing yet another update. No restart before 10:20. It may be 10:25. So the frustration, and in fact Ollie just picked on that. 4 of the cars, as I said, haven't been on the circuit yet, so they're already feeling shortchanged. But if you have a gold lineup, you have to wait like everyone else, but you've got no miles under your wheels as yet.
Still working on the metal barrier by the looks of things.
Well, the good news, John, we can see the top of the metal barrier. They've got it up to the right level now.
That is in place and it's been secured. But just to go back to Ollie Wilkinson, I mean, you assume a British driver, and he came through. You said the Ginetta ranks, and they race here regularly. I mean, some of the best racing that you'll ever see. Young kids, I mean, 14, 15 I think the 14, 15-year-olds. I mean, where do they get the skill from? Anyway, the big giveaway for Oliver Wilkinson is he's got a Yorkshire accent. He's not a Kent boy per se, but the team's based in the location, and it's a local circuit. I mean, more or less local circuit to McLaren, who are based over in Woking in Surrey. So it's got you can build it up into being we are the local team.
Yeah, you might as well, but also great to have some more McLarens. Now, Team WRT, they have 3 Audis here. One has been injured, that was car number 30. But let's hear from Ryuichiro Tomita, who's driving 31.
We're down here now, of course, waiting for the session to get started. But we've seen around the WRT team that drivers have been practicing changeovers and all sorts. It's a great opportunity to keep working, I guess.
Yeah, I think so, and because we have the super long time in the waiting, and we don't want the wasting time, and we have to stay on the focus and for the driving. That's why we do some practice or something. Yeah.
And you're sort of sitting, hanging out at the moment with Frank, who's ready to get going.
It's my place, and it's my really comfortable for this place because nobody in there, and I'm staying behind my co-workers. It's really good.
And Frank's obviously going to start off this session. How well do you two, know this circuit between the two of you? I think Frank's probably slightly more confident here.
Yeah, but he's only one time driving here in that before, and I never drive before, and we don't know track yet. But yeah, let's see, maybe we can do it.
It's amazing. Everybody assumes that the Brits must know this circuit inside out, but actually it's not the case.
Yeah, it's so difficult. But it's no to the track, but then maybe we can enjoy it because it is so traditional and old school track. Maybe we can do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Actually, just one quick question. Do you use the sims to learn this circuit?
In the sim?
Yeah, in the sims.
Yeah, in a lot, but then completely different in sim and real, because it's like a roller coaster. It's not like sim.
Is that the feeling through the body that you mean is different?
Yeah, I know that in this track, and fast in the turn light and the turn light, and that's it. It's not like completely get confidence.
Well, we'll talk to you later on once you've had a chance to really get a grip with it.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Well, Ryuichiro Tomita, I mean, he's not familiar, he's never been here, but of course in Japan, where he comes from, you've got some old school, I mean, the biggest, greatest old school circuit over in Japan is Suzuka, a circuit that really is not dissimilar in some of the characteristics that we have here at Brands Hatch, in that there's not a lot of runoff on the outside of any part of the racetrack. So if he's familiar with driving at Suzuka and other circuits in Japan, then he'll probably feel absolutely at home here at Brands.
I really think he will, having sort of watched quite a lot of the Super GT races years ago. Lots of gradient changes, places like Sugo. Again, that term, old school. But I loved hearing Ryuichiro talking about the racing version of a roller coaster, a Lola coaster. I think that one will stick with me for a while. So repairs being completed out there, and good to see the humour down in the pit lane. But I think we have to feel that job is nearly done at Westfield. If you didn't catch the start of the broadcast, it looked like a fairly innocuous off, pretty much at the end of the bronze and silver practice session. 5 minutes before the end, Benjamin Goethe, second quickest at the time, but effectively just seemed to go straight on when he came to Westfield, and it looks like the car had escaped remarkably undamaged. I look to my right, I can't see it back in the pit lane yet, so Team WRT still effecting repairs there, but the barrier repair has taken an awful lot longer than we expected. But again, John, we could see the front, we could see the stacks of tyres, we couldn't see the state of the barriers, but I think they are nearly there. But it's this session sort of started at 9:30, should already be finished, but
yes,
cars yet to go out on the circuit.
So we're going to be basically almost an hour behind, but it's still suggesting 10:20 is the start time, but we're 10:18, and probably it's going to be a further 5 minutes. So it'll be the best part of an hour of time lost due to that, what looked to be not a particularly big moment, but obviously clearly was a much more severe one.
Yeah, never can tell. But now, Louis McKeel's long time racing in the Pro-Am class with Andrea Bertolini, but Louis is down talking to Gemma.
Louis, great to see you on UK soil. Welcome. And I've just seen you knock on the window there to make sure Andrea is still staying awake and focused, ready to get going. He's awake.
Yes, he's awake.
You guys looking forward to this weekend?
Of course. Yeah, unfortunately last year was no Brands Hatch.
No.
So we are very happy to be back. I remember my last race over here, we took the pole, so we're going to try it again to do. It's a special track, it's an old-fashioned track, so it's very exciting, but we are happy.
It's interesting actually talking to a lot of the drivers here. There seems to be a real mix of who knows the circuit well and who is a real novice here.
I only drove twice over here. But I just did a few laps, and it's so difficult. Each corner is really different. But it's very exciting, and I love it. I love the track.
What is it that makes it so special?
There are so many blind corners. It's so small. You know, the grass on left, right-hand side, you cannot touch because immediately you are out. We have seen some pro drivers as well. It's a difficult track, especially for a gentleman driver.
And of course, we've come from the back of a circuit at Spa that's very, very long, and this one in comparison is mega short.
Yeah, it's just 1 minute and a few seconds, and it's very short. The cars are very close to each other, so it will be a tough race as well.
It'll be a great race, I'm sure. Thank you very much. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
So that's Louis McKeel's running in the Pro-Am class. We've got Silver Cup, we've got Overall, and we've got Pro-Am. And the points for that championship are being led by the SPS Mercedes crew, SPS Automotive Performance, Valentin Pierberg and Dominic Baumann. Now, how close would you like it? 71.5 points, only 3 points clear of Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez racing the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. And then look, just half a point behind them, Johnny Adam, Alexander West, third overall, Garage 59, Aston Martin. Just heard from Louis McKeel's, definitely within striking points range, just 8 points down, showing with Andrea Bertolini. So a real mix of cars, a real mix of drivers, and we could very easily have a new leader after just the first of our two races at Brands Hatch.
Well, the Pro-Am category, you can see how close it is. I mean, it's 8 points between first and whatever you want to say last, but it's not fair to call it last, it's joint fourth. So any one of those four operations, four team, could end up in a change in that. But it's great to see four cars so closely matched over the 3 races we've had already.
Well, just to run through, if you take a victory, you get 16.5 points. If you finish fourth, you get 7.5. So if the pair that are last at the moment, which is Louis Michiels and Andrea Bertolini, win, they could easily go to the top of the table. It can change that quickly. It's in everybody's mind. There's car 188. That is the Alexander West Johnny Adam Aston Martin. And don't forget, last time out in the Sprint Cup, we had a Pro-Am car on pole position at Misano, courtesy of Johnny Adam.
Yes, but also this car won its category on the last lap by about a 1/10 of a second. I think it's the closest finish that we've ever seen.
1,000th of a second,
Thousandths,
0.001 seconds, and Alexander West just held off the charging SPS Automotive Mercedes.
We didn't realise it at the time, but what actually was the reason why Alexander West was struggling in that final lap was he had a deflating rear tyre. So he was hanging on by the skin of his teeth, and he managed to get that. It doesn't matter if it's 1,000th of a second or it's 20 seconds. He got the checkered flag and got the points and did a very good job under difficult and trying circumstances. As we go back again and coming to what is the conclusion of a much longer, a much more protracted repair to the back at Westfield, the back part of this racetrack. Literally behind those trees and barriers, there's a massive housing development.
Now, I said just a short while ago we'd like to have more McLarens in the championship, but also more Porsches. Here's the one here this weekend. Team Allied Racing, Julian Apotelos, young Swiss racer, and Klaus Bachler, who's been racing the 911 GT3R for years. Klaus Bachler, really a go-to driver in Porsche 911. So for Team Allied Racing, won't have done a lot of competing here. Would have actually been busier here in GT4 class before, but good to have them on board. So back to car number 88, and let's catch up with the languid star in the car, Raffaele Marciello.
Raffaele, you're always very, very calm, very, very chilled before any session, before any race. Coming into this weekend, feeling confident that you can still make up those points in the championship?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so easy. I mean, both in overall and sprint and endurance, let's say, the Audi is quite in front, but I mean, it's still a long season. We saw when you do a zero and maybe a car win, you can recover it quite a lot. So I mean, we will push. I'm happy to be back in Brands Hatch. It's quite a nice track. Let's hope in future we are back also in Silverstone. That is also a nice track. But yeah, I cannot wait to go on track and enjoy this track.
Absolutely. What is it that you enjoy about this circuit?
But that is an old style track. Let's say, I always say it's like a small Nordschleife. It's quite up and down. There is not like enough area. It's quite quick, so it's quite fun. Yeah.
We've got some fans milling about as well. It's quite nice to have fans back, I should imagine.
Yeah, it's nice to have fans back. They are not in the paddock though, but it's nice to have someone around. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you
very much.
Raffaele Marciello down there with Gemma. I always liken him to, he's like a lizard lying on a rock, just sort of, and then he seems to get suitably warm, gets in the car, and then it's a different person.
Interesting analogy.
You can hold that in your mind.
I haven't thought of that myself, but I get what you're saying. Certainly, when he gets into a racing car, he is 100% alive, and that's what makes Raffaele Marciello one of the most exciting race drivers to watch, because he takes everything that's available to him from his 88 Mercedes-Benz. And again, everybody knows when they come to Brands Hatch, it's about getting one single clear qualifying lap to give you that grid position, which will ultimately determine where you will be able to drive in the race.
Now, new team on board this weekend. We've seen Ram Racing before, but entering the Sprint Cup for the first time this year. Driver on board at car number 8 is Kevin C., driver from Macau. He's sharing this weekend with Adam Christodoulou, who knows everything there is to know about racing a Mercedes. But for Kevin, he's doing this event, and he's going to stay on in the UK with Ram Racing and compete in the next round of the British GT Championship. So good to have new faces in new places, and we'll see how they get on this weekend. But again, he will never have raced at Brands Hatch before, so he's got a lot to learn. Needs to get out on the track, and we're being told it will restart, or this session will actually start at 10:30.
Yes, and that's what, 5 minutes away. But for Kevin C., obviously sitting in a Mercedes, coming to Brands Hatch, which we believe will be the first time. I mean, that you mentioned or asked the question about simulation and do drivers use simulation. I'm sure there are a variety of different options to use. So a driver that's coming to a circuit for the first time today would seek out whatever information via simulation they can get. And the products that you get are now so good that, I mean, it's in certain cases it's probably within a few tenths of what it is on a live lap. There's the 108 Bentley Nelson Pancichichi, a car we've seen this year, Bruce, but what's impressed us about it is been, first of all, its pace, but primarily its straight line performance. Now, straight line performance at Brands ordinarily isn't the direction of travel. Most people will go for a downforce set up to maximize the potential through all 9 of these corners, some of which are very quick corners. And there isn't any straight that's going to be significantly long, say not like Paul Ricard or Spa-Francorchamps, where that extra top speed will maybe work to your advantage.
All these thoughts would have been in the minds of the crews before they came here. Now, Team WRT, what they had to do was download what they've been doing at Le Mans, just to highlight it, their first season in prototypes, and they very nearly took first and second in the LMP2 class last weekend. Cruel fortune for Robert Kubica, leading, going on to the final lap. The car stopped, and when they got the car back, they switched the engine on and it fired up immediately. Electrical glitch, but the sister car came through to win in the end by 7/10 of a second. But hats off to go to a different form of racing, to succeed in your first season in the big one. Team WRT, Vincent Voss and the gang will be delighted, and so they should be.
Well, I think it indicated to me that WRT isn't just a one-trick pony. Now, they race in DTM in Germany, they're racing in WRT, and I mean, that curiosity as to what occurred when they went to the car, as you pointed out, it started on the button, but they also pointed out that there was 20 litres of fuel on board, so everybody would have said, oh, what happened? But anyway, we've got a McLaren lining up here in the pit lane at Brands Hatch, and we're expecting this action to get back underway at 10:30, about just over 3 minutes. Well, it's going to be 3 minutes from now.
On the money, on the nose. 28 cars in the pit lane. Just looking out of our commentary box window to see if I can see Benjamin Goethe's car, the car that did the damage to the barriers, not yet wheeled out into position. It's the third, the Team WRT Audis, and good news, the yellow Peril is now leading, but leaving Westfield, but has to find a gap in the barriers that it can go through.
You can see the marks in the gravel where the Audi travelled all the way through. It went a
long way, isn't it?
I mean, I suspect that's probably the best part of, well, since you're in the UK, let's say 50 yards. I mean, it's longer than a cricket pitch by that's 22 yards. Well, have you been watching Headingley, by the way?
No, is he doing well?
Well, that's his brother. Very good performance by England in the Test match, I have to say.
Yeah, Joe Root yet again just saving the day. But it seemed up 1 week, down the next. It's very, very, very confusing. They're battling against India. But good news here in the world of motor racing. Doors are being closed up and down the pit lane. The drivers have been waiting for, well, the delay will be 1 hour precisely for the start, from the intended start at 9:30 to the actual start at 10:30. It's a half-hour practice session, free practice session. Counts as number 1 because the first session is effectively a test for the silver and bronze ranked drivers. But free practice, half an hour on the circuit. Best time so far was 1 minute 25.153 seconds. That was the number 77 Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. Enrique Chavez, Portuguese racer, fastest of all. Then came 3 Audis, 3 Mercedes and a Ferrari. They were the top 8, with Benjamin Ites, the Chilean racer, in that Rinaldi Racing Ferrari. 2 cars now lined up at pit exit, but just waiting to be waved out onto the track. And with a huge number of these drivers, far more than we'd reckon, John, not having ever driven this circuit before, only driven it once, they have got a lot to learn and very little time in which to do so.
It's going to be a brief session. This 30 minutes is going to go, it'll feel like 30 seconds, because you'll go out and do an out lap. You may come back in again and let the team have a quick look at the car. You might do a couple or 3 flying laps. For many people, it's going to be exploratory laps. So it's going to be a diverse, maybe that's the best way to describe it, session for pretty much the entire field. And those that have not driven here before need to learn as quickly as possible where the lie of the land is. And it's uphill and down Dale here at Brands Hatch, or down Paddock Hill and up Pilgrim's Rise, and then Dingledale itself and into Sheen Curve, and on it goes. Wherever you look, there's a hill or a curve, or sometimes you get 2 at the same time, as at Paddock Hill Bend.
And one of the things, whenever you look at Brands Hatch in terms of imagery, it looks so, it travels a long way through the woods, but the circuit is actually incredibly compact. If you look at an aerial shot, it really is knitted very close together. If you're standing at Druids, you can nip down the bank behind the corner, behind the hairpin at the top of the hill, and then suddenly you're on Hawthorne Hill looking at the cars diving down Pilgrim's Drop. They're very, very close indeed.
When the Grand Prix circuit was introduced somewhere in the early 60s, I think it might have been, of course, the lap time of race cars at that period was, I mean, a Formula One car in that era would be lapping slower than these GT cars are doing.
Well, it was back in the days of the 1.5 litre Formula, I think, so it didn't have that much grunt. Well, they had to make it sing, the V8s. And
when you got the 4-valve Coventry Climaxes and, of course, the 4-valve BRM V8s, and then Ferrari had their version, then the flat 12, and, of course, don't forget Porsche's venerable flat 4s and flat 8s as well. And, of course, wonderful Honda, that little mini V12 transfers. Where do you want to go with all that memory?
Well, I was just looking at one of my sort of childhood books the other day, and it just had a double-page spread of all the different exhaust formats. Fabulous stuff back in the day. Right, Sansalot Racing here with 2 Audis. We had hoped for a third, but Leo Russell and Christopher Haase. Leo's come across after a time of injury, having been racing sports prototypes, and certainly when you were out at Misano, he's one of the stars of the show, so he's really finding his feet.
Well, he's certainly not wasting any time on his out lap, as we see the Aston. It makes its way down through Pilgrim's Drop. Every part of the racetrack has got a name. It's, again, a part of an old school way of identifying. Oh, no, the 114 Lamborghini, and that's going to be a problem. He's just left the pit lane as the sister car goes by. So Lapalainen has stopped on the exit, and that's going to be certainly be a waved yellow flag, and the car. Well, how are they going to get that car removed without going to a full course yellow or even a red flag? I mean, you couldn't make it up.
Well, at least Consta got 12 laps in the bronze and silver session, but this is Emil Frey Racing. We talked about the mechanics working so hard to effectively build from nothing 2 cars after a big accident at the Spa 24 Hours. And this is the car he's sharing this weekend, not with Jack Aitken as per normal, but Jack's still recovering from his injuries there. And Arthur Rougier, young French driver, coming in. But this is track time lost. And as you point out, this section is going to go super fast, but track time is everything at Brands Hatch.
And just watching Albert Costa as he went past the sister car, there were waved yellow flags. I hope he slowed down, because it's the kind of little misjudgment that you could make if a car is stranded. It's still stranded by the side of the racetrack.
And look, we've heard the drivers talking, John, about how you can't see around paddock until you're in Paddock Hill Bend, and then at the bottom of the hill the car is there. Another one car that hasn't yet come on the track, but good news is, I saw it in the background, the shot, looked out the window, it's sitting in pit, not quite at pit exit, but the number 30 Audi, the one that Benjamin Goethe put off, looks so it's pretty much ready to go out onto the track. So that's good news. They won't be missing much of this session.
So everybody is going pretty much as hard as they can. Sector 1 is still under our yellow flag, so drivers need to be aware that through Sector 1 they can't be seen to be improving now, since most of them only went through Sector 1 at the same time as the Lamborghini came to a stop between the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend and Druid. So I don't know how many of them will have recorded the time anyway, as Giorgio Roda goes through Westfield Bend, drops down into Dingledale, then up into Sheen Curve.
Just want to correct myself, the car sitting with its nose out of the pit garage in the pit lane is actually the 32 Team WRT Audi, so that's the championship leading car of Charles Vietz, who's on board, and Dries van Tor. So I was thinking that was Benjamin Goethe's car. Apologies, that is still being worked on in the pit garage. But we have 26, the 28 cars out on the circuit. That 114 Lamborghini still stationary, so that needs to be moved. So really frustrating for Consta Lapalainen. I think the faster times are going to start coming on the board this time around as that 32 Audi just exits the pit. So that just leaves number 30 still in the pit garage. I'm afraid we had the 2 little numbers in our moving track mat on top of each other.
So Timo Boguslawski through Clearways and into Clark Curve. So we've got a personal best in Sector 2, slightly down Sector 1. Wait to see. And that puts him currently into 6th position. Ben Barnacourt, by the way, that McLaren had yet to go out on track. He's got a purple sector in Sector 1 on the current lap. Currently that car 6th quickest. Ben Barnacourt has gone up to 5th, but dropped down because Frank Bird and Jules Gugnon have gone quicker, 3rd and 4th respectively.
Now cars running slowly out on the circuit through Graham Hill Bend, so trying to see if there's anything untoward on Cooper Straight. Have we got Full course yellow now being
say
thrown.
full course yellow. I'm not surprised because the car was sitting in a place that was in itself probably not a hazard, but it would be a hazard to put out a recovery vehicle to get the car pulled back. So we've got the clock still counting down as the 32 Audi comes in at the completion of its first, well, it's only gone round Hawthorns actually, it's only gone halfway round at 50 kilometres per hour.
So what is this doing, John? It's costing drivers pucker full speed track time, which is what they so want, but the full course yellow is released.
Green again, that was quick.
That was super quick, and 114 has got going. There we go, that's the car in shot, so it's managed to go up around Druids and carry on, and Consul Apollonia will have to be looking at all those controls to see, do I need to bring it in? Can I stay out?
Reset.
Yes. Absolutely. So what we have actually is some sudden gaggle of cars all very close together. Kevin C in the Ram Racing Mercedes in a real run of cars. The rest of them are quite well spaced, but he's in a sextet of cars. But right now, he, the driver from Macau, has just got to focus on learning the lines nice and tight at the Sheen curve there. So he's picked up that bit. But the left-hander that follows, Sterling, such a difficult corner. Is that a good line? That's not a bad line at all.
Actually, just looking at the exit, the curbing there has been actually levelled off, and you can actually that's the first view I've had of it from that camera position. So actually there's a little concession has been made to the use of that curbing to make it less unforgiving as it might have been previously.
But still, one of my abiding shots from 4 or 5 years ago was the rear shot. It was Danny Juncadea who got it very wrong, had the massive tail wagging the dog moment and got it together. But you know, the cameraman who caught that will be dining out on it for years to come, and deservedly so. Brilliant shot, but it just showed what happened when you're loading up the car and then suddenly you've got more grip on one side than the other, and then you've got to fight it.
And just down the hill, just watching a variety of different entries and exits out of Graham Hill Bend as we look back at the 88 coming up, going on to another lap. So Timo Boguslawski has got a personal best in Sector 1. So currently the car has gone from 6th down to 9th, but that's just simply because people buy the car almost on a given lap are making improvements. So the next sector time will come between Sheen Curve and the entry into Stirlings to see where Boguslawski has managed to get a further green. He might even get a purple for all we know. Oh, and using a little bit of the inside of Westfield and up through Sheen Curve. So the second sector should be coming up. So what has Boguslawski done? Down into clearways. Let the car float out and then let it come back. It comes back on a natural curve. You're not really having to put any steering input in.
Who came out last? Well, the last of the cars that have come out, Charles Weerts, car 32, who's top of the charts, Charles Weerts. And Timo Boguslawski, we're just looking at the 88 Mercedes, slots into second place, but 0.375 of a second. Not a lot on many circuits, but an awful lot at Brands Hatch. So that lap from Charles Weerts was near perfection at the first time of asking.
And Weerts, of course, having done that silver and bronze test this morning, is dialed in, as will be the WRT Audi team, with a car which is, in my thoughts, an ideally suited car to the nature of Brands Hatch. Fractionally down, 0.12 of a second down in Sector 1. Traffic ahead, the 93 Sky Tempesta Ferrari. So he's backed out of it, actually, just decided no point in flogging a set of tyres, whether these are the tyres he started on or whether they're a fresher set of tyres, as we go on board with the 32 Audi up into Sheen Curve.
Okay, I got a bit ahead of myself earlier, but now the 31 Audi will be the second of the Team WRT cars to go back out onto the circuit. So it's out for Frank Bird, in and out again he goes. But the team knows they've got the benchmark. They've got a car that's fastest of all. A few cars just dotting back into the pit lane. 107 Bentley, that's not faring as well as they'd want. Ulysses de Pauw down in 22nd position, nearly 1.8 seconds down on the ultimate pace, set so far by Charles Weerts. Timo Boguslawski looks as though he may be closing in on this lap. In fact, I think Charles Weerts is possibly about to report back to the pits. Yes, he is. He's come into the pit lane. So fastest. Now let's see who can challenge. Miguel Ramos still sitting with his time from the first session. Still good for third overall in that Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini. But right now it's about getting a bit of clear track. A lot of drivers running very close to other ones, John. That can really sort of get you off your game a bit.
You don't want anybody around you. You want to have clear run at every one of these 9 corners. The thing that will always work against you is if you get caught behind another car, as we saw Charles Weerts do, just get out of the throttle and let it go, because you're never going to make an improvement in your lap time, and in the process you might run harder on your rubber than you'd like to do. So save it, as we see the number 14 Lamborghini Alex Fontana currently 9th, fractionally up on that first sector. So these Emil Frey Lamborghinis, they had an enormous amount of work to rebuild 2 of their chassis, 2 of their complete cars. Comes up now into Westfield.
Slightly tonking the curb on the inside at the turning point, but looking pretty tidy. I was watching it just as he went out onto the Grand Prix loop, going through Surtees. The car looked really, really well balanced, and such a critical corner, John. You can't see into it until you're in it, and then you've got to have a perfect exit, because the section here you're looking at on the screen, Pilgrims Drop, Hawthorne Hill, Hawthorne, you can carry so much speed, but you've got to get it applied ASAP at Surtees.
So Alex Fontana comes up to complete another lap. Jules Gounon, by the way, has just gone second quickest in the 89 Mercedes. And Alex Fontana, where is your time?
Well, it's looking good. He goes up to 6th. He's gone from 9th up to 6th, so he's half a second down overall at the moment. So it's still 1 minute 24.774 seconds for Charles Weerts. He's in the pits. Jules Gounon seconds fastest. Just the wrong side of 1 minute 25 at the moment.
Well, here's a man, if anybody knows a British racetrack, knows Brands Hatch, Johnny Adam, the pro driver on that Pro-Am entry. Just knows every little inch of Brands Hatch, where you want to place a wheel, where you don't. In the exit out of Sterling's there, whether it's a quick exit or not, and his lap times in the 2 sectors are certainly down. But maybe he's just building and he's coming into the pits. There's always a reason. A top driver like Adams is not. Why is he down in time? There's always a reason, and he's coming into the pits.
Yeah, well, in fact, I just think his line out of Sterling's was very, very conservative indeed, and that's the reason why he'd already wound it back that little bit. No risk to be taken. Right, car 31, Ria Chirotamita coming through to complete another lap. He's up in 7th place at the moment, but this lap looks so it's going to offer no improvement, but he had just come back out of the pits, that's why.
Yeah, and bearing in mind this is his first visit to Brands Hatch, that's a pretty good effort indeed. But as we discussed, you know, he's familiar with circuits. You've been to Japan and you've commentated on their GT championships, and this is not dissimilar to some of the circuits that you'll be racing on in the Far East.
Something to get your teeth stuck into. Now, we know track limits, it's coming up. Turns 1, 2 and 3, or to us, Paddock Hill Bend, Druids and Graham Hill Bend, are all being watched very, very carefully. There will be fines, there will be punishment. And what you don't want to do is get a punishment that puts you down the grid. That will really, really hurt. So, drivers beware.
In the meantime, while we've been talking, there's a new fastest car. It's Jim Pla in the 87 ACA ASP Mercedes-Benz. He's gone 7,000ths of a second quicker than Charles Fett. 7,000. The fact is, he's now quickest of the entire field, and that's just the kind of performance confidence you need. You can get your time done, and look at the Audi just using the curb and through Sheen curve.
Well, fastest overall, and he's going faster still on this lap. The 87 Mercedes from AKSP. Jim Pla, he's been starring for years, sharing with the Russian racer Konstantin Tereshchenko, but it's all about Jim at the moment, looking for his second sector time to be completed. He's just going through Sheen curve now, coming up to the timing interval just before Sterling's. He's improved again in that, so his time of 1 minute 24.767 looks as though with no cars close enough to interrupt his lap. So the 87 Mercedes is going to stretch the lead. Jim Pla, great job being done by McLaren and the following Mercedes, really cutting up the earth at Sheen.
That's at Sheen curve, and they're taking lumps out of the inside of the corner. Luckily, there hasn't been much rain for the last number of days, so the inside of these corners, as is the exits, are all boned and dry, so you can take a liberty as long as you don't overdo it.
They'll be digging a trench. Right, Jim Pla did improve. 1 minute 24.454. He found 0.3 of a second. That was a very, very good lap. Obviously, the faster you go, the harder it is to find big intervals of time. But he also had clear track. It really, really worked in his favour. Just going through Surtees now.
Interestingly, the top 4 cars in this session to date, and we've got, what, 16 minutes remaining. 3 of them are ASP Mercedes-Benz. And the only interloper is the 32 Audi of Charles Weerts. So you've got 3 Mercedes, you know, hamming in the 32 Audi.
Yeah, I came here thinking it would very much be a circuit that would suit the Audis in particular. May yet still be the case, but for AKSP, they've done their sums right early on. And car 87 leading the way. There it is with the bronze nose. And another tidy looking lap, but not as quick as before. This could be a lap coming into the pits, Wansfield. But 0.3 of a second to the good.
88 Mercedes has now been taken over by Raffaele Marcello. So it was initially Timo Bergoslawski. There is the car currently still quickest overall. Fractionally down first and second sector. He doesn't. He's just over a tenth down, a 1:24.646 against a 1:24.5454. But that's consolidating the time. He got a very good clear lap in, and he looks to have still a relatively clear racetrack ahead of him. So Jim Pla at ASP, as we've seen, of course, this is a silver entry. Again, these silver entries, they're coming a real pain for some of the pro driver lineups. Jim Pla is a pro driver in that silver entry.
Yeah, and just to reiterate, that last lap was, he's got the fastest lap and the second fastest lap, so he didn't improve, but he was very close to his best. So Acura ASP have clearly got a fantastic setup on their cars for the conditions. Cool, slightly cloudy, but track dry. And certainly the grass at the moment dry too. So the driver's staying off the grass, they know they have to do that, but looking very good. So let's reiterate, Jim Pla fastest, Charles Wirtz, the lead Audi championship leader, in second place, Jules Gounon and Raffaele Marcello third and fourth fastest in their Mercedes. Then Miguel Ramos, still from his time in the first session this morning in the Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, is fifth, and Benjamin Jota still with his time from the first session, good for sixth at the moment. This is free practice one.
Interestingly, of the three Emil Frey Lamborghini entries, it's the 163, which is Albert Costa, which would have been the car I would have thought most likely to be the quickest of the three. It's all the way down to 20th position. The car currently in the pits. So what we've got in this session is just over 13.5 minutes remaining. Dominic Baumann likewise out of position at 26th in the number 20 Mercedes. So will this be an improvement? Well, you can see on screen green improvement, sector 1 over half a second, sector 2 over 1.5 seconds. So Dominic Baumann's going to elevate this car up into something that will be comfortably within, might be the bottom end of top 10 or just outside the top 10. We'll find out.
Waiting for the move to be acknowledged. He was down in 27th. He goes out only to 22nd.
I thought there'd been who's that gun kicking up clouds of dust coming out of Paddock Hill Bend? Dominic Baumann drove into almost like a sandstorm.
Right, Jules Gounon, third fastest at the moment. He's on the move. He's improved in the first sector. He's improved in the second sector. Just been through that ahead of Sterling's now through the final sweep. Clearways, then Clark Curve onto the start finish, what we call a straight, but it isn't really straight here at Brands Hatch. Target time 1:24.4. His teammate Raffaele Marcello just improves marginally ahead of him. He goes into second place, but Jules Gounon is still in third position, and it looks that the Ram Racing Mercedes, now just been taken over by Adam Christodoulou, had a bit of a moment up at Hawthorne.
That was somewhat Hawthorne. Now, spinning there is not recommended because it's a pretty high-speed corner, and keeping well and truly off the racing line, let those cars out of. So let's have a little. Wow! Now, how did you get out there? That is. Oh, I mean, dear me.
Well, he was on an absolute fly. He'd just taken over the car and had got a personal best for that car in the first sector, just pushing too deep into Hawthorne. That would have been an absolute heart-in-mouth moment, and particularly for the Mercedes that was following him around and had to guess where he was going as he rejoined.
And wisely, too, going into the pits. Now, is there something we cannot see? But, I mean, what's Johnny Adam doing? That's not Johnny, that's the 159. So it's happening, it's kicking off everywhere. So that is Shogard in the... He went off.
It's Tuyela just taking it over from Sheyard, but you know, I think there's a lot of dust being put on the circuit, and I think the Aston Martin being caught out. Let's have a look. Or was it of his own making? Paddock Hill Bend. Don't go beyond. That's beyond. But he got it back. Rodeo ride there.
Yeah, he got the oversteer late in the exit of Paddock Hill Bend, and went over the gravel trap. Got it back on again. Luckily, need to be careful that the gravel that will be picked up. There's the sister car, the 188.
Right,
so Johnny Adams, where is he in this?
He's down right at the bottom, 26th out of 28 runners, but you know, Johnny just needs one quick lap. Johnny's always got that in him, and particularly at Brands Hatch, he's been mighty over the years. Right, running through the classes, it's still Miguel Ramos leading the Pro-Am class. Hasn't improved to the time set by his teammate Enrique Chavez in the first session. Still good for 5th overall. In fact, the next car in the Pro-Am class is Dominic Baumann down in 22nd, so it's a tidy margin. As well as if he can replicate that when it comes to qualifying, then they will be smiling all over their faces in the Barwell Motorsport camp.
Another surprise is we look at Andrea Bertolini in the 27th, he's coming in. What I'm surprised about is Nelson Pancicici in the 108 Bentley. He's the slowest of the 28 runners. There's something clearly not working for the Bentley and we've got just 10 minutes of the session to go.
Well, he's 28th, and the sister car, Ulysses de Pau, is in at 25th. So they've got to get, as Acker ASP have got their set up very, very right indeed. Clearly at Bentley World and CMR, they've got some head scratching, and they've got to scratch their heads pretty quickly to come up with a solution.
Well, a little look around the back of the Mercedes. Adam Christodoulou had that very Larry moment going into Hawthorns. Again, an unusual incident to get a car going off on the outside. Still, he hadn't even reached the apex.
No, I was just wondering if he had a front left puncture or something that just didn't enable him to turn it in, and then he had to spin it round. But as the car came into pit lane, it looks like it's a little bit unweighted, but I can't be sure. I'm trying to maybe offer him a bit of an excuse, but anyhow, the car looks fairly four square, but it's going to eat into its rubber pile to get some fresh rubber on. So Ricardo Feller, 7th fastest at the moment, and driver going well in the various championships. He's 3rd overall, with Vantor and Weerts leading the way, Bogoslawski and Marcello in their Mercedes 2nd, and Ricardo Feller just 3 points down on that 88 Mercedes, and really, really needing a good result here. And after the travails of Spa 24 Hours, they're also thinking back to the last Sprint Cup round, the 2 races at Misano, which just didn't go well for Emil Frey Racing for whatever reason.
Just watching as drivers, like again, the amount of dust that's been kicked up pretty much either at an apex of a corner or on the exit of a corner, and that drags more detritus, muck and rubble onto a racetrack, which of course in itself can lead to a secondary effect such as picking up a puncture. So all drivers need to be aware that while it might be improving or helping them improve their lap times, it may ultimately could lead to an issue as we come up the hill, and all of a sudden the traffic is getting very heavy indeed for the 14 Ricardo Feller as the 32 Audi waits for Dries van Thor to take over, and we've got 8 minutes and a little bit left, so I'm assuming Van Thor is going to take over. It's still indicating on the timing and scoring that it's Charles Weerts behind the wheel. Jules Gagnon still in 4th place, both those cars in the pit lane. Oh, Konstantin Tereshchenko has taken over from Jim Pla, but of course this is the time Jim Pla set. That's the time still quickest overall.
So teams working through their programme in this half-hour session after an entire hour was lost. And an Aston Martin, is it the same one that's run off? We had it a short while ago off the circuit. It's the sister car, it's 1.5. No, it's the same car. It's Thomas Tuchel, so he's had that big moment at Paddock Hill Bend. He's going to work around. They say there are 9 corners on the circuit. Maybe he's trying each and every one of them, trying option A and option B. But for Thomas Tuchel, almost might as well bring that back into the pit lane. No, he's going to go on and, I suppose, just look for the experience he needs to try and string it all together.
As if you're not familiar with the racetrack and you're getting caught out, simply coming into a Sheen curve, well, it's too far out to the left on the exit and just caught the dirtier bit of the racetrack that then dragged the car off the line onto the gravel trap, back onto the grass, back on. I mean, testing the skills of a lot of drivers not familiar, as the 32 goes out, drivers not familiar with this racetrack.
And again, the track, as you pointed out earlier, John, as wide as any, but the drivers experience that when you go beyond, that's not as wide as many circuits. The drivers all describing it as an old school roller coaster. For the Finnish racer, Thomas Tuchel, he's learned how not to do 2 of the corners. This one is where he went off first, that's Paddock Hill Bend, and he was a long way up the climb to Druids before he got it back onto the black stuff.
In both incidents, he could have had a major accident. He didn't, so you move on and just put that in your memory bank and remember not to make those errors in the future. Coming out of Paddock Hill Bend, the back end of the car did clearly step out, and then by putting the correction in it, the car then stepped further right to the left, and that's what dragged him in. But further around the circuit, round at Sheen Curve, just was too late on the exit and got onto a little bit of the dust and whatever on the outside of the corner, and that dragged him into the gravel trap.
Right, with all this dust out on the circuit, we haven't had any improvements for some while. Adam Christodoulou is starting to pick up the pace. He's now back on the circuit. He had that off, as we saw, scary moments up at Hawthorn, but he's back out there. So clearly nothing untoward with the car. They got away with it at Hawthorn, but right now, again, more corner cutting at Sheen. There's a lot of dust going out there. But the trouble is, if you... Oh, and we've got...
gravel.
Is it Tuchel again? I'm afraid he's completing his hat-trick, trying to see where on the circuit he has rotated. The gravel has done its stuff. The car very, very dusty indeed.
Well, that's...
Is it Paddock Hill Bend again? Yes, it is.
Yeah, 5 minutes remaining, and I wonder will they actually go full course yellow, because where the car is in a more vulnerable position, and if another car went off,
Red flag.
Yeah, well, there we go.
So, well, not surprising. Red flag is the announcement. 5 minutes and 20 seconds left in the session at the time. So some of the drivers might get in their cars. The fact we're running an hour late in this program may not be space for this to be restarted, but drivers will still get out, get in, and see if they can get out. That's the Mad Panda Mercedes, but unfortunately for the 159 Aston Martin, tricky moment. Paddock Hill Bend, always a difficult corner. John.
Okay, up the hill, McLaren dives up the inside. Tuchel probably not aware of it. And there we go. Well, he wasn't aware that McLaren was there, and more than likely that's inexperience, just focusing so much on what you're doing going forward, and not having that spatial awareness that you need now. Whether there were wave yellow flags or wave blue flags coming up, but it was clearly he was not aware that the McLaren was on the inside. It's a tough entry into Paddock Hill Bend. If your concentration is just simply only going one direction, that's forward, he wouldn't have had a clue the McLaren was there.
Yeah, well, I suppose you also have to say that Thomas was aware that he'd been off at that corner and had a big save about 3 laps before. Ollie Wilkinson going up the inside. A little bit of contact there. Round went the McLaren, they both went sideways, but off into the gravel. Went the 159 Garage 59 Aston Martin. Hopefully no damage on either of those cars, but the red flag out there. Session will not resume. There is the message, of course, with that 1 hour delay for barrier repairs. We've eaten into the sort of elbow room that we would have had otherwise.
Yes, I mean, it's inevitable. We've had a long delay initially because of the incident with Benjamin Jota. So there's Tuchel standing looking at the rather dusty Aston Martin, and goodness knows how many kilograms of gravel have been scooped up when the car came to a standstill. So hands on hip and frustration, and almost saying to myself, well, what happened there? Who hit me?
Well, all caught on camera, so we'll be able to look at the replays, and obviously both drivers will look at those and try not to replicate that. So various cars having troubled sessions. Good to see the 114 Lamborghini that got going again. In fact, Konsta-Lapalainen ended up 9th quickest overall, but frustration for those that don't get the track time. But right now, if you're driving one of those 3 ACA ASP Mercedes, you can go, we didn't need the extra 5 minutes, we've really got it under control. But with this session not resuming, let's take a look at the results as they stand. Free practice 1 now completed here at Brands Hatch on a Saturday morning. And it is the 87 Mercedes you will find at the top of the time charts. There it is, and it was driven by Konstantin Tereshchenko and Jim Pla, both putting in decent times in that car to top the chart. Second fastest sister car, Raffaele Marciano, and the driver who started it, Timo Bogoslawski. Championship leaders Charles Weers and Dries van Toor put their time in very early on to be the best of the Audis in 3rd overall, and the 3rd of the ACA ASP Mercedes in 4th place. Jules Gugnon sharing with a Romanian racer Petru Umbrarescu. Then the top Pro-Am runner Miguel Ramos and Enrique Chavez, Barwell Motorsport Lamborghini, ahead of Benjamin Goethe's car. That was the time from the first session this morning for bronze and silver drivers. Still good for 6th place overall. Best of the Lamborghinis, Ricardo Feller and Alex Fontana in 7th overall. And a local driver going well on home ground, Frank Bird, sharing with Ryuichiro Tomita in one of the Audis from Team WRT. Konsta-Lapalainen stopped on circuit, got the car going again, so that 114 Lamborghini good for 9th overall. Top 10 completed by Aurélien Panis in car number 26, the Santalot Racing Audi. He shares with Fred Verviche. 28 cars came here to play, and the ultimate spread not looking so good for Bentley, because their car is one of their 2 Continentals down in 28th position. They're 2.5 seconds off the pace. You can be sure these intervals will close right up with clear running on the circuit. Slightly stop-start this morning, and good to see Kevin C and Adam Christodoulou getting 4 cars behind them, so making strides for Ram Racing. 24th overall, but they'll be working their way up the order. Of course, we move from practice to qualifying. Now, the driver who put the time on very early on, Jimmy Pla, driver of 87 Mercedes.
Jim, you've set the fastest time in that session in what looked to be quite a difficult session.
Yeah, the track was really dirty, so it was easy to make a mistake. At the end, it was a bit better, but yeah, we did the best time for FP1. It's a good start. Now we have to continue like that, working on FP2, and we'll see the quali. But yeah, quite confident with the car. I think we have a good car, so let's keep pushing.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
So 1 hour of pre-qualifying before we get to the cut and thrust of qualifying. But this half-hour session delayed by an hour for barrier repairs. Got underway at 10:30. 28 cars coming out to play. And the number 30 Team WRT car. The one that went off and caused the delay was the last car out onto the circuit. But very early on, the 114 Lamborghini Constellapalainen went through Paddock Hill Bend and came to a halt. But just as the track went to full course yellow, he got going again, so didn't lose too much time out on the track. Charles Weerts in the 32 Audi championship leader set the pace, and then suddenly the 87 Mercedes, Jim Pla, really flashing up the field. Big moment for the McLaren down at the bottom of Paddock Hill Bend, then up at Hawthorns, off went Adam Christodoulou, mighty save there, and then Thomas Tuchel had a turgid time, unfortunately off at Paddock Hill Bend, and that wasn't the last of his moments off the circuit, but Jim Pla got the job done. Konstantin Terashenko took over, and this brought the session to a close. McLaren go out the inside of Thomas Tuchel, contact and off into the gravel. No real damage done. That was that. Free practice is over.